Grace and peace, beautiful spirits, grace and peace. I hope all is beautiful in whatever world that you're experiencing. If this is your first time coming across my page, welcome. If you already subscribed, you already know how I feel about you, baby. I appreciate you. For those who don't know me, I am Tommy Durrell. I was brought into your world to help create positive change. As you listen to my messages, if you listen to my message with the carnal mindset, you won't get anything from none of my messages. If you listen to it with the religious mindset, you may get a couple of things from my messages. But if you listen to it with the spiritual mindset, you'll grasp everything that you need on your day-to-day, on whenever you decide to listen to any one of my messages. I'm still down here in the valley. You heard me, I'm in this isolation season. And within this isolation season, I can say that it's been so beautiful. You know what I'm saying? God does so many miraculous things if you just choose to follow him and, you know what I'm saying, let him take the wheel. Just sit on the passenger side, you know what I'm saying, and just go along for the ride. Watch him show you different things within your journey that is going to start to make sense, and you're going to really start to heal from all the things that you strategically create within your mind that is really don't have nothing to do with anything but to remind you of who you actually are. Now, in previous messages, well, let's go back to yesterday. Yesterday, I dropped a message, and I'd say there's so many different things. It would be hard for me to pinpoint something, but on a strategic part of it, I mentioned about you being that balloon with helium in it in the very beginning. So let's think about the very beginning. Within the very beginning, you met two of your main characters. Sometimes you only meet one of your main characters, which is your mother and your father. Within those particular characters, you create what's considered as a soul tie. In those particular soul ties, then you may have a situation where you have brothers and sisters. You're going to have aunts and uncles, possibly, or whatever the particulars may be. But the moral to it is those soul ties are strategic things that are also designed to keep you from becoming who it is that you was created to be. Now, when it comes towards this journey, especially when you decide to get to the point to where you allow God to have access over everything, you fully submit to him and let him do what it is that basically he came for you, what you came to do, or whatever the situation is, which is to help create and change the generation that you came within. Now, within that particular change, there's so many things that's going to come up that's going to make you uncomfortable. So this particular message here is going to give you some triggers. It's going to trigger a lot of people, a whole lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're one of those type of people that are afraid to grow. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to go ahead and say that. If you are a type of individual who is afraid of growth, then this particular message may trigger you. So be prepared. You know what I'm saying? So inside the Bible. Now, a lot of people ask me, man, why you never give out scriptures? You know what I'm saying? Say where the actual scripture come from. Well, the reason why I don't is because I want you to go and look it up for yourself. You know what I'm saying? You Google everything else. You heard me? But within the Bible, somewhere, it says that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Now, if you think about it, there's a lot of people that you're around. They basically don't talk about certain parts of their lives. You know what I'm saying? They don't talk about certain parts of their lives. And the reason why they don't talk about certain parts of their lives is because that generational curse of family secrets. You heard me? As long as there's a family secret that's going through the lineage of your family, there's absolutely nothing that'll ever change until somebody comes in and actually changes that particular situation. Now, that particular situation may have been your parents, may have been one of your aunts or uncles. If it didn't happen with none of them, it has to go down to the next generation. Now, who is in that next generation? If you don't have the courage to take this opportunity to allow God to help you recreate the narrative of your family, then your particular family is going to stay in bondage just like the multitude of families that's out there. Now you may be a part of one of those particular families. I have no idea, but it may be, think about it. Everybody you connect to, they got something in common. That's the reason why y'all hang around each other. But let me go into my notes, because at the end of the day, you got to remember that your truth, because this is what I'm going to speak today. I don't know how many particular segments are going to come out of this particular message, but I'm going to speak my truth, because I've learned that my family is actually in bondage when it comes towards family secrets. Within the Bible, you remember the story of Job. Job was the man. Job had everything. Job had cattle, houses, people working for him, all of the above, to the point to where within that story, the devil went and asked God if it was cool for him to go ahead and attack Job. You heard me? Now, the devil also told God, I'm telling you, if I go ahead and take something from him, he's going to curse you. Okay? And God, you know the particular story, so I ain't got to get deep into it. But strategically, if you think about it, some of our families were attacked by the devil to the point to where, does it make sense now? To the point to where nobody decided to recreate that narrative and to stand up and speak their truth and set their particular family free. Now, when you fast forward through that particular story, Job lost everything. They even lost the drawers. You heard me? Everything, every single thing, to the point to where he did not curse God. He trusted him throughout the whole particular journey. And towards the end of the story was when he went on ahead and received everything double. Everything he got back double. But it's the middle of the story that I want to talk about. Within the middle of the story, it was a point in there where his wife, the woman that he sleep next to every night, she said, you go ahead and curse this God that you've been praying to. And he stood tall. He said, no, I'm not going to do it. What that reminds me of, it was about 3 years ago when I first started going live. As I was going live, I had a family member to call me. And that family member told me, go ahead and do your lives, but don't say nobody's name. And at that point, I was thinking to myself, man, what does that actually mean? Because although she knows that I love her, you heard, man, why was it her, the one that had to make the call in order to receive or in order to give me those specific words? Don't say nobody name. That's cool. But in that don't say nobody name, that's another trigger when it comes towards the family secrets. You heard me? Now, it's not just that particular individual. It may be a particular individual in your life, to the point to where it's going to be a generation before you or before you. You know what I'm saying? They are looking at you, because you remember just yesterday I said, stop letting people call you by your nickname. If they can't call you by your first name or whatever the situation is, show the respect, but have the understanding that in that particular spirit, that spirit will not see you as the individual on behalf of how God sees you. Now, you may be the one that don't see yourself in that particular realm either. But it's going to come. You know what I'm saying? You might not even be on a spiritual journey, because you got to think, I'm on a spiritual journey, and absolutely nobody can help me within this particular journey, because nobody around me ever been through it. And it sucks. Yeah, it sucks. You know what I'm saying? I feel like sometimes I don't have nobody to talk to. But at the same time, I'll come out and I'll do a live, or I'll do a video, or whatever the situation is, to be able to get this stuff out. Because if I don't get it out, I'm just sitting around with these particular thoughts. Now, these particular thoughts are attached to the multitude of individuals that's out there. Because away from the story of Job, I believe in the Bible, there's an area where Moses died. And when Moses died, they gave us the same jurisdiction that Moses got. And there were a set of individuals that's going to be crossing the Jordan within our care. So if you think about it, the longer that you hold your truth in, there's individuals that may be in their 80s and 90s. They may be individuals that already transitioned to the next life, or whatever it is that you believe, you know what I'm saying? But there's people that are strategically waiting for your arrival. They're not looking for you. Don't think that they got people out there looking for you. There's individuals that are looking for something that you possess. You heard me? And every last one of us have these spiritual gifts from God, but a lot of people like to sit on them. You heard me? You ever came across some people that you know they so talented, but they just can't figure out what they want to do with themselves? What they're doing is, also in the Bible, it says, don't, you know what I'm saying, no weapon formed against me shall prosper, but those individuals are being their own weapon. Now, in that weapon, you got to remember the soul tie. In the soul tie, they're waiting for specific individuals to either transition before they actually start speaking their truth, or they just never get to the point to where they start speaking their truth and they transition. Now, within the transition, there's always someone, because you know social media is big these days. There's always someone that comes in and says the words of "gone so soon." Not exactly. Within that "gone so soon," you got to think about it. The day that you were born is the day that you started to die. Everyone has a timeline. So in my particular truth, you know how there's a situation where people wait to start writing books once their mama die, or I know you didn't heard it a few times, or their father dies, or they, whatever the situation is. While my mother has 5 brothers and sisters, while all of them are still alive, I am going to start speaking my truth to go ahead and recreate the narrative for the family, because my little cousins have to figure out life once all of these characters, including myself, are no longer here, especially when it comes to my son. You heard me? I'm going to start to talk about my son and the situation that I went through as far as my particular son. That's something y'all probably had never heard me say anything about. But it's time for me to go ahead and start to speak my truth. That way, who knows, one day he'll get the opportunity to see all this and see that certain situations was strategic, because I'm going to let it all out. Because strategically, just like the devil with Job, the devil had to touch and take certain things in order to make sure that Job either curses God or not become who he was created to be. And strategically, that particular spirit knows that before they even come into that particular situation. So I'm going to set a whole lot of people free. And it was really easy. You know what I'm saying? But there's a particular area within this journey that you got to be willing to go through the humiliation scene or humiliation season. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, from 2014 to now, 2023, I'm coming out to speak my particular truth. You heard me? So, like I said, I don't know how many messages going to come, how many parts this thing is going to be, but it's going to be amazing. But what I can tell you is, as long as you stay within bitterness or hatred, those two situations, you usually stay in something a little bit too longer than you're supposed to. Now, it's not saying that I stayed in that something for longer than I was supposed to, but now I got the full understanding and the healing to be able to hold a conversation about it without being triggered. You know what I'm saying? Without being, thinking that I gotta find somebody else's approval for spitting or saying the certain things that I'm going to say in the comment videos, because I see we already at the 50-minute mark. So I just wanted to, you know what I'm saying? I wanted to, I'm going to bring it out. You heard, man? Now, as I mentioned yesterday, if anybody, including you, have heard anything about me within a negative way since 2014, if you believed it, remember, when you, there's a reason why your money has been funny. Think about it. Go back to think. Whenever it maybe it have not been 2014. It could have been 2018, 2020. You heard me? Whenever, 2022. Whenever you got the information and you believed the information that you got, and if the information was negative, that's the reason why your money is funny. You heard me? That I'm giving it to you ahead of time. That way, as I go through this particular process, now, mind you, I already know that this is going to bring more haters, you know what I'm saying, around, or whatever the deal is. But I'd rather you hurry up with it. You know what I'm saying? You know how within the matrix, whenever someone starts speaking the truth, that's when something happens to that individual. So I'm trying to speed up this process, baby. You heard me? Come on with it. Because I come from a particular place where there's a lot of families that's still in that same bondage. You heard me? And it's some great people. There's some beautiful people from where I'm from, but they're afraid to grow to the point to where you have a conversation with any individual and the stories are all the same. So if you think about it, do you believe that God sent us down here only to work for other people, not have our own dreams, and to only raise kids and then to show back up in heaven? If that's what you believe, that's the only reason they sent you down here. Or do you believe that lying to the next generation about who their grandfather is or who their daddy is, to the point to where you have somebody else got your child calling somebody else daddy, but that's not the stuff that you actually tell people. You only, you give what you give because you don't think that somebody's ever going to stand up and actually realize that the only reason that you had them was because they didn't know who they were. But then once that individual realizes that that was something that I chose to do within this timeline to expose that character, because there's a lot of y'all who have experienced this spirit and you still have no idea what to do with that particular spirit. But like I mentioned, let me make sure all my notes, everything is everything. I'm at the 19-minute mark. I hope that there was something that was said that's going to excite you, because I'm so excited about it. You heard me? I'm not going to allow the devil to stop me. It don't matter who's about to call and say what they're going to say, because that's the common cause. Let me call them and go ahead and stop there. Oh, so you want to keep the family in bondage? Before you call me, understand, I'm not allowing the devil to keep the family in bondage. And you're going to learn something too. is going to help set you and your family free as well. But anyway, y'all be safe. I know tomorrow is Father's Day for anybody that celebrate that. Happy Father's Day, my brother. Y'all be safe. Grace and peace.